So I've been seeing a lot of discourse online about the new season of Fallout, with many fans of the franchise infuriated by how they're portraying the different factions, world building, and iconic characters of the cult favorite entry in the game series, New Vegas. And on one hand, I agree, New Vegas put a lot of work into making all of its factions portray themselves as reasonably as possible, while also portraying those that oppose them as being the true villains of the game. And so far, the show seems to lack the writing skills and nuance to give a convincing argument that the slave-owning, openly misogynist military dictatorship cult are the rational choice in this world, while the other, more nuanced factions like Mr. House and the NCR seem likely to be boiled down to an everybody just sucks kind of mentality, instead of exploring the good and the bad from a more neutral angle, so the player can think about how all of these different philosophies reflect their own, like the writers of the original game took the time to do. And it's been very frustrating for classic fans to watch the Brotherhood devolve down into some kind of dude bro military LARP who would gleefully destroy old world tech instead of being the nearly cult-like hoarders and protectors of that tech like they were classically portrayed. And while other adaptations can annoy the crap out of fans with their changes or reinterpretations of characters and lore, the Fallout show is infuriating many even further due to the fact that it's been stated that this show is canon with the rest of the games in the series. So not only are whatever choices fans have made over the past 10 years playing that game being overridden by the choices the show is making about what happened in New Vegas after the battle for Hoover Dam, but we're seeing that future games in the series will be building upon what we're seeing here, with people behind the scenes claiming that plot lines and setup in this show will be important in the future of the games, telling fans that if you don't like these changes to the world and style of the franchise, it's only going to be more and more of it going forwards. So there's a lot for both purists and more casual fans to be frustrated about here, whether it's a nitpick or not. And so on one hand, I can sympathize with those trying to voice their complaints with this series online, but as much as I do love Fallout, on the other hand, all I can think is, who the fuck cares? Fallout is not a game franchise anymore anyways. We haven't gotten a new mainline Fallout game in 10 fucking years. Wait, it's almost 2026? Alright, fucking 11. We've gotten some spin-offs like Fallout Mindless Chibi Resource Manager and Fallout Repetitive Online Crafting Simulator, and sure, they kinda plastered half a Fallout game onto the side of the second one, but it still feels like what it is. A big empty-ass wasteland with some NPCs dropped in that you cannot kill or affect really, because the game needs to be a hollow online game in order to get money from the percentage of people who will give into microtransactions. That's all it is. It's not there to be a game. It's not there to flesh out the world. It's just there for those microtransactions. And even if you do count that game, which a lot of Fallout fans aren't going to, it's still been like 7 years since we've had a new game. And worst, we haven't heard shit about when they plan to even release a potential new game. Oh wait, there was some news this year. Let's take a look. According to official sources, as of 2025, the next Fallout game is greenlit. Wow, greenlit. 10 years after the last one in the entry. Oh, and apparently it's being worked on. Wow. I'm so excited. Well, at the current rate, it seems to make these AAA games nowadays, we should have to only wait about 10 to 20 more years. Sweet. Bethesda does not give a shit about getting a new Fallout game out, or appealing to longtime fans of the series. And honestly, why in the hell should they? Fallout is not a video game franchise anymore. It's a merchandising brand. Because in all this time, you notice what has still been coming out? Shirts, bobbleheads, replicas, Funkos, advent calendars, statues, lunchboxes, soft drinks, notebooks, tarot cards, cookbooks, pillows, pajama pants, posters, coffee, action figures, card games, hoodies, flags, popcorn buckets, blankets, plushies, mini fridges, pins, bottle openers, keychains, poker chips, paperweights, tote bags, bananas, energy drinks, mouse pads, and on and on and on. Pretty much everything you could possibly imagine to have a Vault Boy or Nuka-Cola logo stamped onto it. So what are people getting mad about? The Brotherhood isn't a faction dedicated to the recovery and preservation of pre-war tech. They're a cool helmet. When they appear in the show or modern games, why would I expect them to make sense and be consistent to their previous portrayals? They only exist to get people to pay $160 extra for their shitty online game with no NPCs. The NCR isn't a conversation on the sacrifice of freedom and autonomy for safety and stability that modern society is always grappling with. It's a cool flag and a cool helmet. The Legion isn't a challenge to the flaws in civilized society, appealing to the base nature of our species instead. Mr. House is not a morally fascinating man, using his great resources to keep an oasis of the old world alive, with it left to the player whether this is for good or bad. To Bethesda, they're all just recognizable IP with potential merchandising opportunities. So am I upset if Season 2 of Fallout isn't respecting the choices fans of New Vegas have made in that world over the past decade of playing it? Am I annoyed that the different factions and characters may not be portrayed with the same nuanced arguments for their actions or serious consideration for what each faction represents? No. Why would I be? This show doesn't exist to do that. It exists so Bethesda can add the NCR flag and armor, Securitrons, Mr. House, the New Vegas sign, Legion insignias, and more to their reservoir of merchandising products. Specifically by getting those images out to a wider audience with a streaming show. And so that they can get you to pay $200 extra to get a Securitron if you rebuy New Vegas soon. And I ain't saying this kind of merchandising is bad or anything. Hell, man, I'm one of the consumer whores who pays them for the honor of getting products with their crap on it. But when I bought a Fallout shirt, it was because I loved the games so much. But now, after 10 years without any new single-player game and absolutely no indication of when or if we'll ever actually get a new one, I've realized something. Bethesda is not as stupid as they appear sometimes. They've realized something other game companies haven't. When they bought up Fallout and released Fallout 3, followed soon after by New Vegas, they'd caught lightning in a bottle. But so many of the other seemingly juggernaut game franchises of that time released a game people hated and just died. Mass Effect died with Andromeda, Fable died with Fable 3, Dead Rising died with Dead Rising 4, Saints Row died with that awful reboot, Dead Space died with 3, and now Assassin's Creed and Dragon Age look like they're both dead in the water as well, after recent incredibly poorly received entries into the franchises. When you release a shit game and piss off the fan base, it can kill the entire franchise. Because these games cost so much to make, boom, that's it, they're dead. And fans will be lucky to ever get another entry. And if they do, they'll be lucky if it's anything like what they loved about the franchise instead of some freaking garbage like Fable The Journey. And when these things bomb, entire studios get gutted and sold off, usually costing thousands of people who had nothing to do with how shitty these games are their jobs. But the bigwigs actually making these horrible decisions and responsible for killing these franchises don't give two queefs about the fan base or their employee. They care about losing one of the revenue streams that fund their coke and hooker-fueled lifestyles. And the higher-ups at Bethesda had a thought. Wait. If these other companies keep releasing horrible games and killing their golden geese, what would happen if we never released a new game? Will the goose just shit out gold forever? And we've been seeing this out of both Elder Scrolls and Fallout. Skyrim came out in 2011. And where's the next game that was announced years ago? Let's see. Looks like it's gonna finally release in who the fuck knows? It only started actual active development in 2023. And why is that? Well, because despite all evidence to the contrary, Bethesda is smart. The second they release Elder Scrolls 6, they can't expect the same number of sales when they re-release Elder Scrolls 5 anymore. They've already gotten people to buy the original game, the Legendary Edition, the Special Edition, the Anniversary Edition. Bethesda's in no rush. The lack of a new Elder Scrolls for a passionate, desperate, and starving fan base is part of what drives these re-release sales. And we already see them trying to do the same with Oblivion now. Why invest so much time and money and take risk of failure on a whole new product when there's so much old product you can just release again and again and again for a much, much bigger profit margin? And while Elder Scrolls, specifically Skyrim, is incredibly popular to the point where people will buy re-release after re-release after re-release, it's not all that good for merchandising, which according to a very wise man is where the real money is at. But Fallout is great for merch. Bethesda struck gold when they bought up this franchise. Modern AAA games cost a shitload of money and suck up a crapload of company resources. And when you're tossing that much money around with that many cooks in the kitchen, it can become very, very likely to release something that just outright bombs. Modern games are a huge financial risk. But tossing Vault Boy on a shirt or bobblehead costs frickin' virtually nothing. And you have a guaranteed amount of fans who will buy that shit up as soon as they see it. That's the kind of brand safety corporations love. And that's what Bethesda seems to be doing with Fallout. They've got a commercial on Amazon Prime for the merch. They've got a spin-off live service game where they can get whales to pay for their microtransaction currency. What benefit could there be to getting out a real game anytime soon? Eventually, interest in the brand will inevitably start to fizzle out. And my guess is that's when they release new footage for the new game. Similar to the, quote, footage they released for Elder Scrolls 6 years ago. But in the meantime, while they wait to do that, there's another plan that I think they're trying to do. Something every modern company has been trying and failing to achieve, but Bethesda seems to be succeeding at. Watering the brand down. All companies hate risk. For entertainment companies, this means that releasing new product is a lot of work, because good and bad is a subjective when it comes to entertainment. While a fan will be able to pretty easily know what's good, the people making games, shows, and so on are often not fans, and so can't always tell the difference between what a fan would call good and shit. And if the majority of fans consider a new entry to be shit, it can do a lot of damage to that brand's revenue stream. If your entire business model is built around releasing good content, well, that makes things a whole lot riskier. We saw it happen to Star Wars, where an unstoppable merchandising brand that used to take up an entire aisle at stores has been relegated to just a few hangars where toys no one wants just collect dust for months at a time. And all because they released a few movies that fans did not like. Fans of Star Wars love the characters and world building of the franchise, and through the years they've become incredibly familiar with and knowledgeable of what this world looks and feels like. Disney did not understand this. They thought they'd bought a license to sell lightsabers and just rushed out 4 Star Wars movies year after year with no real quality control, and no real care about how well they flowed together. Stayed canon to the originals, or honored the decades of love and money fans have invested into this brand under George Lucas. And whatever your opinion of those movies, you can just compare the massive decline in merchandising sales to see that the fans have crucified Disney for their blunders. Fans just understand the brand better than Disney. They understand what makes the Force, the Empire, the Rebellion, Luke, Han, Leia, and every element of the franchise work so well better than Disney did. Disney and many other brands in similar situations realize this. They don't want to do all the work of appeasing these incredibly passionate fans. They just want to churn out crap and make money. They don't want to worry about preserving what it was the fans loved about it so they'll stick around. So they tried to replace the fan base with a new one. But that new fan base, in Star Wars' case, pretty much didn't exist. So they pretty much made no one happy and are still suffering the consequences. Bethesda seems to understand, though. If your goal is to make money for the least amount of effort possible, an incredibly nerdy and passionate fan base is the worst thing to have. Because no one is going to be harder on your product than people who care about it. But if you can find a way to bring in an audience of people who don't give a shit about the lore or continuity, then you can just churn out whatever and no one will complain as long as the game is moderately fun. Fallout 3 took time to try to justify some of its changes to the Brotherhood and Enclave for fans of the previous games. Fallout 4 was not as interested in appealing to long-term fans. And now, it seems like they're done even pretending to pander to people who pay attention to the lore, or world building, or anything deeper than just the superficial aspects. With even fans of the modern games taking issue with changes in the show. People get mad and start talking like this is just bad writing or a lack of quality control from Bethesda, but I think they're wrong. I think this is completely deliberate. You know who cares about the core principles of the Brotherhood of Steel? Nerds. You know who cares about the nuanced morality and beliefs of Mr. House? Nerds. Who cares about the multiple endings for New Vegas? Who cares about what happened to the Kings or the Legion? Who cares that super mutants should only be here or there? Who cares what chems should be portrayed as pre or post-war? Who cares what ghouls are even supposed to look like? Just total fucking nerds. And you know who doesn't care? Literally everybody else. Walking around a post-apocalyptic wasteland is cool. Dystopian consumer mascots are cool. Mutants and zombies and robots? Cool. Giant green Walt Disney guys on retro TVs? Fucking cool. Power armor and colorful utilitarian jumpsuits? Cool, man. That's what Fallout is now. Just a series of cool imagery and vibes. And it'll work. It already did with Elder Scrolls. Previous Elder Scrolls games were quite popular with nerds who like fantasy video games. But Skyrim was popular with everybody. They made a fantasy game that stripped out pretty much all of the fantasy-style storytelling and world-building of previous games to make a badass run-around-and-kill-things simulator. They basically did the same thing with Fallout 4 and went even further with 76. Whether you say purposefully or not, 76 shows that they've clearly lost touch with the Fallout audience. But they've gained a new audience, a more superficial audience, one that's not invested in the last few decades of lore and world-building, not connected to the original pre-Bethesda games or even the last few Bethesda ones, doing what Star Wars and the MCU tried and failed to do, created a new fan base that did not care if things are done right or wrong, and shed the previous whiny fan base. The new fan base likes the post-apocalyptic aesthetic, the violence, the choices, but doesn't care about the specifics. Fallout has become like Mickey Mouse. Most fans of Mickey don't know any of his classic cartoons. They don't know which era is which or any of that crap. They just like the design. And who wouldn't? It's a great design, just like the ones in Fallout. And I have to say, it's a real shame, because this superficial empty branding is exactly the kind of thing the franchise originally made fun of. I hate the Fallout is a commentary on capitalism crowd. Fallout is a commentary on war. It's right there in the friggin' opening. war never changes. All the brands and luxury items seen everywhere don't represent the excesses of capitalism. It represents the false idealistic life of safety and comfort everyone is living in, despite the fact that the world is seconds away from being destroyed. Yeah, sure, you see capitalism wherever you turn, but that's because it's based in America. But America is fighting communist China, and they helped blow up the world too. If you had a Fallout based over there, you'd see parodies of their culture. There are little commentaries you can make inside of everything in Fallout, but at the end, it's about war. People are constantly at war for resources, for safety, for luxuries, over ideology, over alignment, with our own morality, with the morality of others, and yes, for wealth as well. And in the end, it all ends the same way, with everyone just fucking dead anyways. War. War never changes. But despite all that, Vault Boy himself, as well as the other brands like Nuka-Cola, do represent an aspect of consumerism and branding. They put a friendly mascot over some of the darkest shit imaginable to trick people into thinking that these companies have a soul, when they're just inhuman entities built on profit margins and resource management. And while Vault Boy existed to mock that idea, now he's become that in the real world. There was supposed to be an ironic dystopian feeling to him. Now he's just the Fallout mascot, because Fallout is shedding its identity. So I guess the ironic dystopia is our own world now instead. The world of Fallout is huge, with infinite potential for unique stories, factions, characters, and world building. But we're never going to get any of that ever again. When the next game does finally come out, it'll have you be a vault dweller from yet another control vault who walks outside and wanders around, encountering the same enemies and the same factions over and over, with a couple new and much less memorable ones added in here and there. Fallout 2 in New Vegas didn't have you start in a vault. There's really no reason you should need to. There are so many other people in the world. The vaults are an awesome part of Fallout, but they're only one part. There's no reason every game needs to be set there, or that you should even need to play as a regular human. Why not do it like Elder Scrolls and let us pick to play as a human, ghoul, super mutant, raider, robot, synth, or whatever they can think of? Why do we need to start as a human vault dweller, even when the justification barely makes sense in games like Fallout 4 or 76? Well, it's very simple. So that Bethesda can toss a new number on all this random vault merch and just re-release it, convincing people to rebuy the same bobbleheads, hoodies, shirts, and so on over and over and over again, but with a new number on it. 101, 111, 76, next 87, 133, 315, 746, on and on and on. So they can keep selling Pip-Boys and Vault jumpsuits and keep focusing the entire brand identity around Vault Boy and never have to take a risk or try anything new. They don't care about exploring this world the way older games, even the classic Bethesda ones, did. They just care about the recognizable branding. And that's fine. I'm gonna be honest, I'll buy the next game when it comes out. I can like superficial action games with cool imagery just fine. But with Fallout, we used to have something special. And now, we just have something.